She lost a stitch. I think we... What do we got?
I have a middle with no middle stitch.
Okay, we're gonna have to figure this out. I think her stitch marker jumped.
It did.
Because I don't see anything running away. I like a challenge. It's like Sherlock. We're gonna...
Oh, I found it, I think. But I don't know. 2, 4,
I think that's your middle stitch
6,
right there.
8, 9. That is my middle stitch right there.
So we just need to... Yeah. Okay.
All is not lost.
See? You can fix things. I'm getting older, man. It happens every day. Older sucks. Oh, man. All right. All right. Hello.
Welcome to the adventures of Liz and Rebecca.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to scratch my face.
Don't do that.
We're being healthy precautions here at the shop, so I'm going to ignore the scratch, the itch, whatever, on my face. Yes, welcome to the adventures of Liz and Rebecca, the Liz and Rebecca Sideshow. Yay! I'm Rebecca. I am the owner here at Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, and
I'm Liz. I'm the minion at Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, located in Brevard, North Carolina.
There you go.
Come visit us.
Did I? No, I didn't. Oh,
You didn't.
I can't remember anymore what we've done, what we haven't. My tips and tricks channel, I was getting on a roll, and I realized there were 5 or 6 that I didn't say who I was or where I was, and I tried putting subtitles in. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the subtitles I put on the last episode. There were things, we had gone too long, but there were things I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention. Oh, I forgot to. So I put some fun little subtitles in, but, you know. It's hard to keep track. Brian thinks it's amazing that we do this without a script because he's building a really cool channel, which I might put in the end. Brian, my boyfriend, has a piano channel. He's a piano teacher. He's an awesome pianist. And he's doing educational videos and other things where he writes scripts, and he does a lot of work into them. And this wouldn't work if we did a script.
No.
We've tried. Welcome to the sideshow.
We've tried doing like show notes, and you know, with
our knitters say show notes. Do show notes.
This is what we want to talk about, and 95% of that is just like, did we hit that? Oh crap!
I forgot about that.
Well,
sometimes I look down at names, but I never look down again at what we're doing. So,
I look at my knitting, but you know.
Well, and that's something interesting. Again, I have no plan for today. Tuesday we talked about sweaters because you were making a sweater.
Hey,
and what?
That's the name of this episode. I have no plan.
I have no plan. I have no. Oh, okay. It's just been named. So, but no, I've noticed that we've settled into this rhythm where you are always working on a project, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. We could both be sitting here knitting. I can't do that. I can't. Like, I can't.
I can knit and walk. I can crochet and walk. It's taken a while, but like you kind of have to do it like you're driving a car.
I can crochet and look at someone. No, not crochet. I can knit and look at someone and not look at my knitting and blow them away. I can't do that with crochet. But with this, with what we're trying to do here, I would lose track even more than usual if I had a project going.
You talk with your hands.
A little bit.
It would be like tying your hands behind your back and going. Oh God.
And that's why I would lose track. And I'd probably have to rip out everything I did.
Yeah.
Because, right now I am working on a color work piece where I have to hold 2 strands of yarn at the same time. Anyway, I'll get to that later. So I can't do that. I used to consider myself really awesome at multitasking, and I can here at the shop. Like, I can have 4 or 5 people come in with different projects and with minimal brain switching help them all. But my own knitting, like, I can't work on a crochet project while people are in the shop and need knitting help. I've found, like Saturdays are either a knit day, lesson-wise, or a crochet day. and I cannot pick up the opposite craft and work on it and have my brain in the right gear to help them.
Every now and then, my brain will wander like while I'm knitting, and I'll be knitting right along, and I'm like, ooh, how would I do this in crochet? Not that I've ever figured out how to do any of my knit projects in crochet, but it just it pops in there every now and then, and then all of a sudden I look down at my knitting and I go, how do I knit? Like I can't remember what I do.
The genesis for this podcast was me sitting at home on my day off, going down the rabbit hole of first it was fashion historians deconstructing and analyzing famous movies like Titanic and Disney movies and like Snow White, and were they historically accurate for the time they were supposed to be set in. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm knitting along and watching that. Ooh. And it leads me down the rabbit hole to one of these historians has her own channel where she recreates historical pieces and how they were made back in that time period. And I was like, that's really cool. We could do something like, I could get videos up on YouTube that, maybe don't have that same quality and editing and stuff. And then I was like, oh, let me put in knitting and let me see what's out there for that. And I'm trying to watch those as I knit, and it didn't work. I started to do what they were doing on screen, which is not what my project called for. And I went, poop. And I had to take it out. So, just talking about it now is probably throwing you off.
Well, no, I'm to the wrong side. Yeah, because
she's working on a Papillon.
Why would I do something easy?
So it's like your TV knitting is brioche, which is what most people when they do brioche, it's not when they're watching TV. They're in a room by themselves with no noise.
Talked about in hushed and quiet tones, and I'm going to go brioche at home. Music with no words and.
Honey, can you shut up? I'm brioching.
Yeah.
Don't bother me. It's worse than counting.
But there are people who can, TV knit and brioche.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go, what? And now I'm like,
So what she means, the wrong side row, which means the beautiful right side is facing you all on TV or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. If it's on the big screen, I apologize. I watched myself on the big screen and went, oh, ooh, ah. Yeah. So the wrong side facing her means the complicated stuff happens on the wrong side, on the Papillon. It happens when you're working back across to do a right side. There's a whole lot of the what do you call it, Liz?
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's right and wrong side, but the first right side row is just straight knitting. And then when you come back across.
The back and forth and back and forth. Well, no, you're right. Okay, I correct myself. It's on a wrong side row, but you flip it around, so you're doing the right side. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I'm teaching this morning, so I should know better. It's going to be great, though. So, excuse me. So yeah, that I couldn't do that and still kind of attempt for our podcast to have flow. I could be like, we were talking about something. What? So let's just check in with a few things, right? You're working on which one? This is your fourth or fifth Papillon? I mean, they're all going at once.
I want to say this is it's Project 99 on Needles.
You still...
I
keep saying you haven't done 100.
I haven't started 100. I started another one.
You started a project last night. I'm like, oh, good, you started 100. And here's why it's not 100.
It was crochet. I'm doing another Solomon's knot shawl, which as it gets bigger, I'll have to bring in and show you. But right now it's like this big because I'm doing tiny little knots.
I forget. Have we told our audience why you don't count crochet?
Yeah, we told them, but I'll tell them again.
Let's remind the people at home.
I don't count crochet because theoretically you can pull the hook out and go to another project with the same hook. Like if you have 3 projects that are all a size H hook, you can use the same hook for all 3 projects. Mm-hmm. Theoretically.
It's not stuck.
I don't, but you can.
It's like we don't know how many pairs of size US 10 needles you have. Because we've lost track because they're all stuck in projects.
Between 10s and 10.5s, I probably have more inventory than you do right now in the shop.
I think so.
especially in size
Because you
40
keep
length.
buying me out of them.
Well, I keep forgetting. Either I start a new project, or I forget to bring in the needles that I.
That's
don't
not a
have.
thing.
No.
It's not a thing. So that's another thing with crochet versus knitting that we were talking about because it's not a competition, is knitting, like what I'm about to show you guys, knitting, you're stuck on your needles until it's done. Crochet, you're done with a stitch when you have one loop left on your hook. The regular crochet, not Tunisian, that's a whole nother thing. So you can always just leave that loop, take your hook out, work on something else. So who knows how many things you have mid-progress, if we just want to call it that.
Yeah,
Works in progress.
I have no idea.
Which is awesome and kind of terrifying. So it means that you just never run out of things to do. That's pretty cool for the foreseeable future. You know.
Yeah.
So this is a brand new project that I've started since I talked to you on Tuesday. I'm really excited about it. So one of our new yarns, right behind us here, let me pick up Yummy Yellow.
Yummy.
Amano is one of the yarn companies we absolutely love. They're relatively new. Everything's done down in Peru, and they have luscious alpacas. One of their yarns is the one that you call Baby Butts and Unicorn Kisses.
It's softer than both Baby Butts and Unicorn Kisses.
It's silk and alpaca, and it's amazing. It's probably on the same twist. We could show it in a second, but this is a new yarn of theirs. It's one of our spring-summer yarns. It's Sammy. It's so brand new that right now, or when I checked on Tuesday, if you go to Ravelry, no projects, no stashes yet. It is our yarn of the week. We have one yarn of the week that is 10% off every week. That's my timer already. Wow. We're going to keep going. So this is cotton, Pima cotton, so soft. And I am making, and then we'll do Baby Butts and Unicorn Kisses. I was like, well, what am I going to make out of it? I have no suggestions on Ravelry, and I was just going through popular things in DK weight on Ravelry, and I came across this little number, the Soldotna crop, which I've always half-eyed and been like, that might be fun.
I've thought about it, but
Yeah.
it's on such teeny tiny needles.
Well, wait, I got a story about that, because I'm not doing it on teeny tiny needles. So what
You
Liz...
checked your gauge.
Yeah. What Liz means by teeny tiny needles is a size 3 and a size 5, which for a DK weight yarn is reasonable.
No.
And I said, oh my gosh, well, first of all, a short sleeve one. Short sleeve and crop. And if you watched the last video, you know that I have an aversion to crop tops, even though they're very fashionable right now, because I have a muffin top, which would stick out under the crop top. However, it is also highly fashionable right now to layer. So,
Layering is awesome.
layering is awesome. I'm going to wear some kind of long sleeve t-shirt under this once I make it to hide my muffin top a little more. But I thought, if I'm going to do a short sleeve, and everyone's been doing this one, why not make it out of cotton in these beautiful colors that they have? And because summer, yay! And when I looked at the math, for my size, which is not the teeny tiniest size, it should only take 6 skeins of this yarn, which is 50 grams. It's not a crap ton of yarn. So I'm putting that to the test. And I was so excited that I sat down Tuesday night and I started swatching.
She was strongly encouraged to swatch.
I'll show you. First of all, I'll show you. I'm so excited because, let's see, this is the front. Okay. So this is what I have done so far. And I'm loving the colors. I think it's going to be great. And it's going to be summery and open because I'm actually on a size 8 needle, believe it or not, because not all DK yarns are the same. Some, and not all fibers are the same. This was not written for cotton. This was written for wool. And wool and cotton will behave differently, and they'll have different amounts of give. And so swatching, gauge swatch. I know knitters who will never gauge swatch. They will make it in the size it's written for.
Shout out to Sarah Beth Transu.
Hey, Sarah Beth. And what I hear from her is she will make it in the size it's written for, and if it doesn't fit, she will find someone it does. And that is wonderful if you don't mind giving away some of what you're making. I am a big fan of most of the time of checking my gauge. And that means, for people who aren't familiar with it, that means making a little square first. If say this said 22 stitches by so many rows should be 4 inches. That does not mean I cast on 22 stitches and I go for so many rows and hope it's miraculously 4 inches by 4 inches. That I will do something bigger, or I will do something where I can measure at least 2 inches in the center of it, because the edges of a square will always do weird things. It's not reliable, in my opinion. Now, this pattern writer, there's some things I will do for gauge swatch, and there's some things I'm like, ain't nobody got time for that. No. This pattern writer, Caitlin Hunter, awesome pattern. She highly recommends because you're knitting in a circle on this, and she recommends you actually do your gauge swatch in a circle, because when you knit a row and purl a row back and forth versus knitting in a circle, your gauge can change. And I didn't want to do that. She also said to do your gauge swatch in color work, stranded color work, sometimes called Fair Isle. Some people are purists and say Fair Isle can only apply to certain designs. And stranded color work is the name for when you're holding two. I'm holding, on the last row, I was holding these 2 colors, green and yellow. When you're holding 2 colors at the same time, it'll change your gauge. And I went, I don't want to do that.
I really don't want to do that.
I was really grumpy. It was a really long day on Tuesday. But I sat down and I did my gauge swatch on 5s. I actually made a little itty bitty mini sock. I had 20 stitches and like 20 stitches. It was a little, it could have gone on a couple fingers.
You could have made it a wrist warmer.
Yeah, but I'm testing the theory I only need 6 skeins of yarn and I didn't want to waste any. So I ripped it out. I should have taken
She
a
did
picture.
not block her.
It also said to block it. I did not go that extra mile, but I did it on 5s, and my gauge was way off. I think my calculation was I had 30 stitches for 4 inches instead of 22. So I did it again on 7s, and I was really close, but I still had too many stitches, which means they were too small. Too many stitches in a small space means you need a bigger needle to make bigger stitches to take up more room. I always have to overthink that to know going up or down on needles.
I can spit it out. Like, if people ask me, I can spit it out because I've heard you work through it so many times that I'm like, if you don't have enough stitches, you need a smaller needle.
Shrink the stitches.
To shrink the stitches. And if you have too many stitches, you need the bigger needle. And people are like, that doesn't make sense. And then
trust the system.
Once I spit it out and people are like, that doesn't make sense, then I wind up second thinking myself, and I'm like, wait.
Well, I
can spit it out and tell them exactly what to do.
Someone was sitting here at knit night, and when I said I have 30 stitches, they're like, oh, you need to go down. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's opposite of what logic would tell you.
It's opposite of what your brain wants to tell you.
Yeah.
It's and I'm a really big believer of check your gauge, get needles that will work for your gauge. Like, this is pretty open, but I think it's going to be lovely and drapey. I mean, I wanted something lightweight anyway, and this will be more lightweight, and I was not planning on wearing it without something underneath. So I think this is going to be super awesome. And the neck looks good, doesn't look too small or too big. So here's hoping that testing my gauge worked. But yeah, I tell the story of, in all my intro knitting lessons and crochet lessons, about gauge, and I say, change your tool. Don't try to change how you knit or crochet. Don't go, oh, I need bigger stitches, I'll just knit looser. Because that's a recipe for disaster.
You can't do it.
Yeah. The first sweater I ever made, speaking of sweaters like last episode, the first sweater I ever made was a sweater for my then boyfriend. And I tested my gauge, and my stitches were a little big. I was supposed to have 7.5 stitches to 1 inch, and I had 7. And I was like, I'll knit tight. I'll just pull the yarn tight. I'll control my tension. On a sweater for a 6-foot tall man who was not a skinny 6 feet. and I'm knitting in a circle like this. When you're knitting in a circle, they get all jammed up, and you can't tell what size it really is till it gets off of those needles. But I was a new knitter at the time. I did not want to go buy another pair of needles. And I did it, and the good news is, when I was done, it was a perfectly proportional sweater. It was not a Seinfeld shirt or something where you've got the different sleeves and the wonkiness. It looked beautiful. And he put it on, and it was a dress on him. Because that half stitch over an inch, over 50 inches or so, added up. It was huge. I tell people, his chest hair poked out the top. He couldn't wear it. And so I learned my lesson. Take the time to make another little swatch and figure it out. If I had made this sweater, I mean, we'll see when I'm done what happens. I'm really excited to have made it this far. I will be completely honest. I have made almost no progress on any other project to show to you guys today because I worked on this, because I'm really excited about this. Hopefully, if my gauge swatching has worked for me, this will fit. If anything, it might be a little big, and that I'm okay with that.
Because then I could wear it.
Anyway, I would just go for the sweatshirt look. No, but if I had gone ahead with 5s and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm an on-gauge knitter," which is what some people say. If I had, it's not so much if I'm an on-gauge knitter or not. It's that this cotton behaves differently than the yarn it was written for. It has nothing to do with if I'm a tight or loose knitter.
I'm an on-gauge knit and crocheter, and the biggest problem I've had was people who write their patterns write it for a specific gauge.
Or the way they knit.
The way they knit.
Or the yarn they use.
Yeah, which is not always on gauge. Like, it's like... Yeah.
The world is not that put into boxes as we would like. I could show you 2 yarns that are both labeled as DK weight, and they look like completely, they're different ends of the DK spectrum, kind of. So I could have gone ahead and just made it, just done it on 5s and said, whatever, it'll work. And I would have been really unhappy because I think it would have been teeny tiny. It would have been absolutely teeny tiny. And I am getting bigger with age, and I don't want things that make me look bigger because they're teeny tiny on me. You know, I think a lot of people can relate. So, so that is my lesson of the day on gauge. So, I went down a rabbit hole. We were going to talk about baby butts and unicorn kisses.
Baby butts and unicorn kisses is silk and alpaca. It's got a chainette, and then they the alpaca in there.
Oh, it's so fluffy and soft.
And it is. Oh, we had a family come in, and I was like, "It's baby butts and unicorn kisses." And the dad was holding his newer baby, and he was like, "Oh, it is softer than baby butts." Like, yeah. And baby butts are so soft, and unicorn kisses are so soft, and you know.
Nope.
This is what they make when you have yarn.
I think I broke a head.
Uh-oh. Did you decapitate it?
No. I think it got a little dented. I was trying to get this color even, this flavor.
Yeah.
This is one of the pieces we made out of it. It is Pearl Soho's Cozy Cabled Cowl. Speaking of cables, it took about like 2.5 of these. And this is a good example of super bulky, but it's a light super bulky, so it's on the thinner end.
Yeah.
This thing is fantastic and so soft, and the rows where you do cables, because with cables you do rows of straight knit and purls, and then one row where everything twists, and then rows of straight to set it in place and then twists. And the row that this twists, you're actually twisting knits and purls over each other, but it's just cable, all the way around. And it is so fluffy and wonderful. So yeah, the chainettes, but it's not heavy. That's the cool thing. It's not, and this is light.
And the, because it's got the little hairs over it, it acts like mohair. So if you do it on a bigger needle, you're going to have even warmer clothes, or
traps the air.
It
Were you
traps
talking
the
about
air,
that when I
like
ran
down.
away?
No.
Okay. Chainettes can be light but warmer because it's like a down coat. They trap air inside the chain. It's awesome.
And inside the little hairs.
Yeah, and kind of less splitty than some other yarns.
Kind of.
Yeah. People come in the shop and they say, I want a yarn that won't split. And I say I don't have that kind of magical resource because almost every yarn splits.
I still want to do a splitty yarn sale, and just as a social experiment to see who would come in to buy splitty yarn, because I've told some people that, and they look at me in horror, like,
why would we buy yarn that splits?
Why would you buy a yarn that splits, or why would you put it out there? And I'm like, all yarn splits.
One of our jokes is from a customer coming in and saying, "Don't use this yarn; it splits." And it was not a yarn we sold here. It was something she was having finished because we offer those services through
gorgeous
Astrid.
yarn.
It was wonderful. She said, "Don't use this yarn; it splits." And so now that's our "Don't use this yarn; it splits." Because all yarn splits.
It's by nature.
Level. It's yarn.
Yeah.
Unless it's like chenille or something that is even a single ply here at the shop has the potential to split. And if it's a yarn that's made in a way that absolutely won't split, it might feel kind of crummy. Yeah. Like it might not feel like the nicest yarn, which might have its purpose for something. But the nicer the yarn is, the more it might split, and that doesn't mean it's bad yarn. It's yarn.
Bernie's learning to fix his splitty yarn.
Like, good.
Yeah. My husband just learned to knit like a week ago this morning.
There you go.
He did 90 stitches yesterday.
That's fantastic.
He worked through his project three times. And he goes, "Oh, it split." And he would back out and do it again to where he's, figuring out.
This is my thing about new knitters, especially. Trust your gut. The ability to start seeing what is going right and wrong is huge. I mean, that means you're making so much progress. You should be so proud of it. I mean, that it's really about reading your stitches, building muscle memory, so the things that feel more weird than the regular weirdness of learning means something's off, and being able to fix it. That's amazing. That's awesome.
And it's funny because when you taught him to knit, you tried teaching him English.
Which is how I throw. I hold it in this hand and I throw it around, is what they say for English style. And Liz, as you can see, is knitting continental style, where they say you pick it more than throw it, where you're holding in this hand and you're scooping it. And I tried to teach him, though, how I teach all my beginning knitters, which is throwing, because it's easier to communicate. And his brain was kind of melting down about that because
he's been watching me crochet and knit continental for so long.
He's been subconsciously picking. He's like, I think my unprofessional diagnosis was his brain was, that's not what knitting looks like. And he started to hold the yarn in the hand you hold it in.
Yeah.
And then it started rolling for him on that lesson. It was awesome. Yeah. It was really cool. Yeah. So my guy, Brian, 2 years ago now, we went on a vacation to Florida, and we brought yarn, and I taught him to knit. And his cool thing was that he's a piano player. He's a pianist. So I think it's the light touch he has on the piano, which is amazing. He was a loose knitter. Usually when people learn, they're really focused and it comes out really tight and they have to loosen up over time. He was just like whoop, 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 whoop. He was trying to get the hang of it. It took a little while, but it was loose. I was like, wow, I've never seen this before. Now we call what he's done his little dishcloth, because it's still on needles and it's still only about this long, because we have no time. So anytime we might pick it back up again, it's hard. So busy people, but I have no idea where we are in time. I think we've had a decent conversation for today.
It's like 20 till.
Okay, we should probably open up soon. So we didn't show off a whole bunch of projects. My Papillon is still where my Papillon is. So you're working on the one that's gonna. We should show. She got a little bit further than Tuesday in that your pop. So whenever you want to show your pop,
I'm doing this one. I am doing in the moth. It's going to be a moth, but
which is an adaptation that Marin wrote for the butterfly, is the moth.
And I'm changing really cool. color. Like she recommends.
You're following her instructions.
She recommends having 6 colors that kind of fade, or whatever. Which fading is not my thing.
So
it's not easy for me to build one. Yeah. Like if somebody handed me a fade and went, "Here, this," and I'd be like, "Oh, that works." But you pick 6 colors that kind of, go through a color thing.
Shifty thing,
Shift,
yeah.
and then you pick a pop of color, and then you have your contrast color.
I will say this is the first Papillon either of us has attempted that the yarn doesn't change color. You are actually manipulating the color.
Yeah, this
Because
one.
people see ours and think that we have done the manipulation and the changes, and we've just been like, "Hey, this yarn changes color, wee!" And so yeah, I mean, we can't. You're in the middle of a row. We can't hold it way out. But we showed you this on Tuesday, and this.
And I don't even think they can see the dark purple because it's so dark.
It's so pretty. Oh, okay. Let's see. This, I wanted to point out that I've showed you guys this before. This is my weekend class, my 2 p.m. class this Saturday, the French Market bag. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a giant rectangle that then you gather up the sides on, and it's really cool. I think I have classes at least half to 3/4 full. I haven't checked recently. Hopefully we haven't overmaxed. But I'll roll with it if we have. And then I chose to wear the other statement crochet piece that we were talking about. I sold yarn for this yesterday because someone just walked in and was like, "Where's the yarn for that?" This is the Fall River, and it's actually in a different colorway of the same yarn I did my Papillon in. That was Rainbow Reef. This is Alice Springs, Queensland Perth, and our yarn rep, when I showed them this, said, "I've never seen the yarn look that way."
And personally, unless you're going to do a Papillon with the Perth, I mean, it looks fantastic in the Perth, but if you're going to knit with it just normal, it doesn't sing like it does in the Papillon, but the crochet makes just the colors.
Again, one colorway, changing colors as you crochet. It doesn't look like this when you knit. The color shifts happen in a different way, slower. It looks awesome like this.
It kind of fades in and out of itself.
Yeah,
but in crochet,
and this and the other thing about that makes this one sing is this is one of the few crocheted shawls that I've actually blocked, or like crochet pieces.
Yeah.
I don't block a lot of crochet. Some shawls, if they're written with open work, blocking is awesome because like pinning it out after the first washing, it made this thing open up. It made it twice as big. It was just gorgeous. And these shawls, I am wearing it in the classic, I don't like wearing shawls around my shoulders the same way that Liz wears them. I like to wear them as a scarf. So
that
point in front,
modern,
wrap.
It does look cool.
Because I'm a modern kind of girl.
I like the great grandma shawls that are huge and you can wrap a village.
Well, if I wrap the shawl around my shoulders, I find it flops in front and it's hard to teach. I like whack people with it. So this works for me, We have different styles. And that's part of what makes everything work is we show off different styles and, go pathetic. Anyway, so I think we're wrapping up so I can finish my coffee that I haven't had yet.
8, 10.
So
I am still on track.
I told you I didn't need to nuke my coffee because it was going to get cold anyway. It's not a thing.
Eating and drinking temperature appropriate.
If you visit us in the shop, you will quickly learn that I graze, and it takes all day, and people come in during lunch and go, "Oh no, I'm interrupting your lunch." I'm like, it's fine. Lunch is going to take
Most of the time you're interrupting my lunch, but I'm food motivated.
Food motivated. Okay. Thank you all for chiming in. I'm super excited because we hit a benchmark just a few days ago, maybe last week, of 300 subscribers, which I thought was really cool.
That it is.
It's especially because we're just like, whatever, we're going to put something out there. Yay. So
we're winging it. We're doing it.
So please share this with your friends if you think they'd like it. Ask them to subscribe. Have a viewing night. We have some people where I'm chatting with who binge watch. Nicole, we've been kind of chatting back and forth, which is cool. And was it Julie, your daughter? I didn't write my show notes down. I'm so sorry. But we're so excited that we might get to meet y'all this summer. We've heard from people in the UK. We've heard from people all over the place. We have regulars who come in and be like, "I saw you. I feel like I've been spending the day with you because I watched you last night." So this is just really fun. So if you can help us grow our audience, just because it's one big happy family. And that's the whole point of us doing this, is we want to have a bigger family. We think it's really cool. So, have a great Thursday, or whatever day you choose to watch this on. We are filming on Thursday.
Stay tuned for more adventures of Liz and Rebecca.
Yes, and have fun crafting. Let us know what you want us to talk about, because as you can see, we are just going to meander through whatever we feel like, unless we have some focus. If you like us not having focus, we'll just keep doing us. But if there's something we mention, or if there's something that you all want to hear more, us banter about,
yeah,
we'll do that.
Maybe by Tuesday I'll have started Project 100.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're going to see what you pick. Will it be another Papillon? Dun, dun, dun! Okay. So now it's like that newscaster thing where we get to talk. Except they would probably go... And I don't really feel like doing that, so... I think I've done the whole I don't want to trip on stuff enough times, because I will trip on stuff if I keep doing that. So at some point...
It's so not a thing.
It's so not a thing.
Yeah.
It's so not a thing. We didn't get a visit from the mailman today.
No, because we're early. Yesterday we were late.